Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at a place called Longham in Dorset. It's a little village or hamlet that's almost an extension of the town of Ferndown, and it's located about 2.5 miles southeast of Wimborne Minster. And we're going to be walking a roughly 4.5 mile circular route with a detour to the south, passing by the Longham Lakes Reservoir, visiting a pretty church at Kinson to the south. We're walking along the banks of an old friend of ours, the River Stour, exploring the Dudsbury Camp Iron Age hill fort, and then ending the walk back at Longham. Now I'm filming at the end of September. It's quite a cloudy day, but the sun is up there. Fingers crossed we'll get to see that a little bit later on. But it's nice and warm, perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, we'll start our walk at the Angel Inn at Longham, which is right by the A348. And it's a lovely pub. Apparently within living memory, locals can remember there being no bar counter and drinks were brought out from the back. Apparently also one family ran it for 66 years between 1910 and 1976. It's a hall and woodhouse pub now, and I expect it'll be our final destination. And apparently it does very nice breakfast. Right, well, we're going to kick out onto the walk heading in a westerly direction and breakfast. Now there's an idea. Shall we? Well, it'd be rude not to. Well, here we are at the Angel Inn. We've just ordered our full English breakfast. Oh, I say, that looks terrific. I will, of course, leave half a sausage for Logan.
A few moments later.
Well, folks, that was absolutely divine. Just what the doctor ordered, set us up nicely for the rest of the day. Well, I certainly feel fortified by that breakfast. I can now start my walk. So initially we're going to head westwards, down Angel Lane towards Coneygar Farm. Well, I've just had to keep Logan on a lead going through the farm and past some horse paddocks, but looks as though we've got a little bit of off-lead opportunity here. Well, one thing about this walk today is it's certainly going to have a lot of variety. Bit of open countryside, water, rivers, forts, a little bit of urban area as well, because, well, that's the nature of where the walk is located, but should be enjoyable nonetheless. Well, just a little update on the route. We're now heading southwards. After leaving the farm, we crossed a little meadow and then over a busy road that comes into Longham from the west. And now, well, it looks like we're on a little quiet track bordered by wild hedges. A few blackberries there for Logan. And heading to our next destination, the Longham Reservoir Lakes. Well, just before we meet the lakes, just reading these signs. I was a bit worried when it said private property, warden patrolled, but as far as I'm aware, There's public access here. Looks as though dogs, though, have to be kept on leads, which is understandable. And here we are at the Longham Lakes Reservoir. There are basically two huge lakes, and this is the smaller of the two in front of me. They don't actually appear on a 1945 map. It used to be open land here, but in 1994 planning permission was granted for the extraction of gravel and the formation of a couple of reservoirs. The land is owned by Bournemouth Water and managed by South West Lakes Trust, and it covers something like 530 acres. Originally it was going to be 3 lakes, but they decided to have 2 in the end. The smaller one in front of me here is used for fishing, and the larger one, which we'll see shortly, is used for canoeing and model boats. It's also a haven for bird life. I think there's a little island in the middle of the lake. There's a lot of carp, pike, tench and bream. But the lakes themselves are up to 30 metres deep in places, and basically they've improved the security of water supply to the local area. I think I read that there was enough water here to supply the whole of the Bournemouth area for 7 days. Well, just as I'm making my way around the edge of the lakes, I thought I'd mention a pub. We're not actually going to see it, but I want to tell you about it anyway. It's a few hundred yards to my left, the White Hart. The building itself dates to the 18th century with 20th century additions, and apparently it's got a ghost, the Lady of Longham. And it's got a fascinating history. The pub was actually the headquarters of the famous smuggler Isaac Gulliver in the late 18th century. It was a big smuggling area around here, with contraband landed at various secret coves along the Dorset coast and initially brought inland to places like the White Hart and stored until it could be transported further inland. And Gulliver had a gang of something like 50 local men. They often dressed in smock frocks and were known as white wigs due to their powdered hair. Gulliver himself was known as the gentle smuggler and proudly claimed that no customs officer was ever killed during encounters with his men. He actually retired from smuggling and became a respected citizen, and eventually lived in Wimborne, where he died in 1822. I'll be telling you a little bit more about smuggling later on in the video. Well, we're on the eastern side of the lakes here. There's quite a wind, hopefully it's not spoiling the audio too much. So this is the smaller lake on the right hand side, which is the one where all the fishing is done. And then, I say, the lakes are sort of split in two by this bank and a path. What a gorgeous swan there. And then just panning over, this is the larger lake with the wildlife, and you can see the island just in the middle there. I say there are some rather lovely little spots along the side of the lake where you can just come and sit and enjoy the view with a bench here. There are quite a few aeroplanes that go over. We're quite close to Bournemouth Airport, of course, but I can still hear the birds twittering away. As I said, this whole area is a great place for bird watching. And this gentleman's, you've got your telescope pointed at the island in the middle, and you were saying what type of bird is out there?
Black-tailed Godwin.
Black-tailed Godwin? Yeah. Oh, right, and there's 50 of them out there?
85.
85, and are they quite rare?
No, on migration. You usually get them on salt marshes,
Oh, right.
you know, down Poole Harbour,
Yeah.
down there, but I think they've just dropped in for a rest.
Lovely. What a lovely chap. His name was Martin, and he was telling me about all the different types of birds you can see out here. I must admit, I know nothing about birds. Just spotted over on that little island in the middle of the lake there. Is it a heron on the ground and what, a couple of egrets in the trees? I'll have to get my zoom camera out and see if I can get a better close-up picture. I'm not 100% sure what they are. Well, we've left the tranquility of the lakes and we're just crossing a road, and in fact just about to cross the River Stour. In front of me here is the Lpngham Pumping Station. Originally it was a corn mill here in the 1880s, and then a pumping station was built. I think the water wheels were used to pump water from wells. I'm not 100% sure. Well, in front of me here, Longham Bridge, which as you can see goes over the River Stour. And there are 11 arches. It was built in 1792 and replaced an earlier bridge of 13 arches that had been there since 1728. Before that, there was just a wooden bridge here. And there, as I said before, our old friend, the River Stour. And we'll be seeing a little bit more of that later on in the video. But we need to continue heading southwards to Kinson. Well, we've now reached the most southerly part of our walk, a place called Kinson. I've had a fun time to get here. We were making our way across a nature reserve and there were a myriad of footpaths. I think we've been on every one, but we kept heading south and we got here in the end. So let's have a look at the church, which is just behind me here. And it's St Andrew's Church here at Kinson. Now, if you look at a map around here in 1897, the whole area was very open. Of course, an aerial map today, a little bit different, a lot of residential buildings now. And there may have been a Saxon church here on the site in AD 950, but the present building has some origins back to the 12th century. The tower is the oldest part, possibly around 1100. And the chancel arch is from the 12th century. The church was enlarged significantly in 1827. The chancel was restored in 1874, and the whole building effectively was rebuilt in 1895, apart from the tower and chancel arch. And it consists of a nave, chancel, tower, porch, and north and south aisles. It was a chapel of ease linked to Canford before it became the parish church in its own right in 1868. Now, you remember I was talking to you about smugglers earlier on. Well, I'm pretty sure that this sort of raised tomb here may have been used by Gulliver and his men to hide contraband in years gone by. Well, we'll have a quick peep inside. And there's the font in front of me here. We're just having a closer look at the font, which is made of Purbeck marble, I believe dates to the 13th century, but you can see on top marks of where hinges and straps used to be that secured a cover, and that was there as a precaution against the stealing of holy water, which used to happen in local witchcraft practices in years gone by. And just in front of the tower is the organ up there on high. And then looking round to the chancel, a magnificent carved pulpit on the left and a terrific stained glass window above the altar. Really is quite splendid. In fact, there's a few stained glass windows in the church which really are quite stunning. And I love those smaller windows up just beneath the ceiling there. They're terrific. What a lovely little church. Okay, we're now going to retrace our steps, well, sort of, head back north over Longham Bridge to get onto the northern side of the river. Means we need to go through that nature reserve again. And this time we're going to go in a slightly more direct route. Well, we've now recrossed the Longham Bridge and we're on the northern bank of the River Stour, and this is the Bridge House Hotel. Originally it was called Bridge Farm here, and that then became the Fisherman's Hotel, and it was sold again in the 1940s. I've seen some old pictures, but I'm not sure if the original building is still part of this modern structure. And I was reading that Telly Savalas, that famous actor, bought it in the late 60s, early 70s, and a family member ran it for him as a hotel. At least that's what I read. Well, what can I say about this view? The River Stour. It's got to be one of my favourite rivers. It's 61 miles long and its source is at Stour Head in Wiltshire, which Logan and I have been for a walk there to see, and then of course it flows all the way out to sea at Christchurch. And on a day like today, it's quite breathtaking. Now, as well as being on the Stour Valley Way long distance path, we're also on the Ferndown, Stour and Forest path, which is a 10-mile circular route that takes in, well, woodland, heathland and the river. It basically starts and finishes in Ferndown. Now, just as we're going along this footpath, as I say, we've got the river on our right, and on our left there's a golf course, Dudsbury Golf Course, and there's a hotel and spa here. The course itself doesn't actually show on a 1963 map. It covers 160 acres, and it's a 6,904 yard par 71 championship golf course. And it's hosted some big events in the past, including the BMW Order of Merit Championship. Wow, this is one of these walks where from time to time you just have to have a little pit stop, 5 minutes or so, just to take in some of the views. And there's a little weir here. Gorgeous sound of the water streaming over and the sunlight reflecting on the top of the water. Well, a bit of an opportunity for a dog dip in the River Stour. That's fairly fresh water flowing by. How far out is he going to go? I tell you what, he's nearly swimming now. That looks very relaxing. Just cooling down. It's quite warm now, the sun's out as well. You going to come out now? Good boy. This is where we say goodbye to the River Stour and head northwards to Dudsbury, our next destination. Now this little bit of raised area that we're just about to climb up is Dudsbury Camp. It's basically an Iron Age hill fort that would have been occupied by the local Retracing tribe right up until the time when the Romans invaded. And the defences enclose a sort of semicircular area of about 3 hectares and consists of double ramparts with a ditch on the west, north and east side and a steep slope to the river on the southern side. Much of the outer ramparts and ditch has been obliterated and severely damaged over the years. The best preserved bit's on the southwest corner, where the inner rampart stands about 1.5 metres above the enclosure and 4 metres above the bottom of the ditch. There are 4 entrances, but probably only 2 in the south and the west were original. But the sort of middle 14 acres were secured as a campsite for the Girl Guides in the 1930s, and I think it's still used as such today. There's a house and garden on the northeast quadrant, so much of it's on private land. And the name Dudsbury comes from a chap called Dud or Duds, who was a Saxon chief in the 6th century. Well, we're very much on the homeward leg now. We've crossed Christchurch Road, heading north back towards the pub, and we're in a lovely little shaded bit of woodland called Bellevue Plantation. And again, if you look at an old map of the area, it was once all open, now fairly well built up, very much a sign of the times. But as I say, this little bit of area is quite idyllic for this last section. Well, we've made it back to the Angel Inn, which we'll now have to revisit, of course, for research purposes, for the sake of the video, just to check out the quality of their thirsty ferret. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had a super walk today, and the weather, well, the sun did come out in the end. It really was quite special. So, until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Oh yes, a thumbs up from me. And of course, crisp time, what have we got? This is a new one on us. Don't know what it's called. Real hand cooked sea salt with bags of character. Yeah, thumbs up from him.